Good morning, how are we doing today? My name is James Sweeney, aka SplitSuit. Welcome back to another video, and today I want to talk to you about poker ranges and really take a 101 level look at what ranges are, how you can use them, how you can build them and understand them better, and then run through some exercises and examples with you to make sure that everything is solidifying nicely. So at the end of the day, you know that poker is a game of incomplete information. We don't have all the information available. Yes, we have some. We know how many chips we have. We know what our hole cards are. If there's a board out there, we know what that is. We know how many chips our opponent has, but beyond that, we don't know exactly what two hole cards our opponent has. We don't know exactly what decisions they're going to make with those cards. And if, say, we're on the flop, we don't know exactly what the turn card or the river card is going to be. So there are a bunch of things that we do know, but also a bunch of things that we don't know. And while Hollywood poker movies and scenes will try to convince you that you can narrow your opponent's hand down to two specific cards, yet two specific cards and their suits, that's just not really the way it works in real life. Yes, they could have King of Hearts, Queen of Hearts, but they could also have lots of other hands in their range as well, 99.99999% of the time, which is why we deal with ranges. So what we need to be doing is building our logical deduction skills. We need to be building our technical skill set to understand what goes into ranges and how we can actually use them to make better decisions. Once we understand these things, we can build our opponent's range far easier and then start making estimates on what they're going to do with that range of hands more often than not. So a range in poker is simply a collection of all of the possible hands a player could have right this moment. And we can visualize a range, be it a preflop range or a postflop range, using a 13 by 13 matrix that displays all unique starting hands in Hold'em, where pocket pairs form the diagonal, suited combinations are above the diagonal, and unsuited combinations are below. And it's important to note that ranges can be described multiple different ways. So the first way to describe a range is using the visual matrix like the one you're looking at right this moment. Number two is the range strand, and this is a string of text that lists all possible hands within a range. So you may have seen something before like deuces plus, ace 10 plus, king jack plus, queen jack suited, jack 10 suited, that kind of thing. It's a little bit ugly, a little scary, sometimes very, very unwieldy, but the good news is this can be imported to and exported from your poker software, so something like Equilab or Flopzilla or Poker Crunch or whatever it be. Number three is the combo count, and this adds together the combinations of every selected hand within a range. And then finally the percentage form, and this just looks at, okay, of all of these selected hands, what does that make up of all possible hands, right? So this ranges from 0%, meaning no hands are selected, all the way up to 100%, meaning every single starting hand is selected, and clearly a smaller percentage form means fewer hands are in there, whereas a much larger percentage form means lots and lots of hands are selected. So these are the four major ways that we can describe a range. And to be honest, one of the best ways to improve your hand reading ability is to understand how ranges, how percentage form, and how frequencies are all interrelated and come into play. Now, a frequency is just how often someone does something, ranging from 0%, meaning they never do something, to 100%, meaning they always do something. Once you understand how these things kind of factor in together, all of a sudden hand reading becomes much, much, much easier. So now that we have the basics of ranges out of the way, let's do a little bit of practice together using page 26 from the Poker Math and Preflop workbook. Alright, so let's flip over to page 26 from the Poker Math and Preflop workbook, and we're going to go through all of these together. And essentially what we're trying to do with this kind of practice is start building that parallel between what the range looks like visually in the matrix, the range strand itself and the actual composition of all the hands within that range, and the percentage form of that range. We can also look at combos if we want to. There's a lot of other exercises in this workbook that do look at combos specifically, so we're not going to focus on that too much in this video. We're just really going to focus on percentage form specifically. So let's start with range number one. If you're working in the ebook, you can always just copy this right out. Just for the record, sometimes just a weird formatting thing, it will just randomly cut it here, and poker software doesn't appreciate that, so just paste it into a notepad, hit the delete key at the end of the line, and there you go. Copy that and you're good to go. So I'm going to use Flopzilla Pro. You can use whatever poker software takes ranges, things like Poker Cruncher, Premium Poker Tools, Equilab, all of those will totally work. And in Flopzilla Pro, just click down here, Control V to paste, enter, and bing. And that looks exactly like this range right here, so we know we did it correctly. If you buy the paperback version or you don't really want to do this kind of formatting thing, you can always just take the answer key and copy it directly from here. Control C to copy. Control V to paste, and there you go, exact same thing. So we notice real quick that this range in percentage form is 48%, so we'll rock that in, 48%, and let's just take a moment, look at it real quick. Notice that there are some offsuit hands like all ace-x, but there's a lot of suited stuff in this range, every ace-x suited, king-x suited, queen-x suited, and again, we're just kind of taking a moment, looking at the range, seeing what's included in it and how many hands have to be included in order to get up to almost half of all playable hands preflop. Well, playable is relative, I suppose, but hands that we're saying are played in this preflop range. And if we just take a moment, combo form is 630 combos. So again, we can start drawing that parallel between all of the types of ways of describing a range. So let's take a moment and do this same exact thing for ranges 2, 3, and 4 as well. So to make our lives easier so we don't have to keep doing that formatting thing, we're just going to take the ranges directly from the answer key. So range number 2, copy that, throw it into Flopzilla, and what do we got? 64%. Excellent. Again, if we look at it for a moment, in order to get to almost 2/3 of hands, we have to have a lot of stuff in here. Almost every single suited combination, a lot of offsuit junk, 5-4 offsuit, Jack-7 offsuit, and altogether this comes out to 842 combos. Let's go on to range number 3. Copy that, throw it in here, perfect, and we're at 39%. And obviously that's lower than the other one so far, so we notice less suited junk in there. Yes, all ace-x suited and king-x suited, but we no longer have that queen-x suited, and we have a lot of the double Broadway stuff, every single ace-deuce off combination as well. And then if we go over to range number 4, again, just strip that directly from the answer key, paste that in, and we are down to 37% of hands. So we notice that these two ranges down here, right, range 3 and range 4, are actually pretty darn similar in terms of percentage form, but they look at least a little bit different, right? Range number 4 has more suited stuff, getting all the way down to queen 4 suited, and also things like 8-6 suited, whereas that's not involved here. But range number 3 has a little bit more of the offsuit junk like ace-deuce offsuit, ace-3 offsuit, etc. So again, it's good to kind of pause here for a moment, look at it, and start understanding what some ranges look like preflop. Now, clearly these are wider. We wouldn't expect a nit to play these kind of hands preflop, just simply because this is, almost half of hands, almost 2/3 of hands, and even these that are nearing 40% of hands, not a typical range that a tighter player is going to use preflop. But if we're talking about people that are stealing or looser players preflop, all of a sudden these could be very, very viable ranges that they might actually use. So what I want to do real quick is give you 5 ranges and percentage forms to memorize. Because if you can memorize these 5, it's going to give you a huge leg up when it comes to hand reading ranges preflop and really understanding what that range might look like and what frequencies might look like in an actual range. Now, this is going to be helpful whether you're building a preflop opening range or a 3-betting range or a calling range. These are all very, very helpful. So let's build them out together real quick and go from there. So the first one I want you to memorize is queens plus and ace king. So we see that that is 2.6, let's just call it 2.5%. Okay, queens plus ace king is 2.5% of hands. Remember that. If we widen up and add in tens plus and get up to ace queen plus, we get to 5% of hands. Again, remember this. This is extremely, extremely helpful. If we go all the way down to 4s on the pocket pairs and get this up to ace jack and higher, and also king queen and king jack suited, we're up to 10% of hands. Again, if someone is playing, roughly 1 in 10 hands, they're probably not going to have things like queen 6 suited in their range, right? And this is part of what we're doing here, is we're trying to understand what are common ranges, how does that equate to the percentage form, because a percentage form is really just a frequency, right? If someone is raising 10% of the time preflop, how the heck are you going to get 7-4 suited in here? It's probably not going to be happening all that much. Whereas if we start to open this up quite a bit and start adding in all double Broadway hands, add in deuces plus, and let's just throw in 5-4 suited, so that way we get those suited connectors in there. Now we're up to 20% of hands. Again, a huge, huge, huge range to make sure that you memorize. And then if we want to get up to roughly a third, we really have to start widening this out, and maybe we'll just throw some stuff like that in there and throw that in there, and, give or take, we're at roughly a third of hands, or 33%. So again, even if someone's playing a third of hands pre-flop, they probably don't have queen 4 offsuit. They probably don't have 10-5 suited, which means there are some flush draw combinations post-flop that we're just not going to have to panic about, and that's a very good thing for us to know. So again, memorize these 5 ranges with their 5 percentage forms, and it's going to help you a tremendous amount. Sure, I don't think the average person is 3-betting 33% of hands, so we probably don't have to worry about this being someone's 3-betting range, but if we're thinking about, something like this is a possible 3-betting range, and if they're 3-betting 4 or 5% of the time, maybe this is the way they're doing it. And that's a huge starting point when it comes to trying to build pre-flop ranges with precision, because once you can do that, you carry that range post-flop, and then you can start saying, wait, how did you really hit? Wait, do you really have that many flushes here? Wait, do you really have that many strong hands? And oftentimes the answer is just no, probably not. Alright, so real quick, I want to show you how you can use these memorized ranges to make some quicker and better estimates in real time. So let's just jump ahead real quick to range number 22. So look at this range real quick, and then take a moment and think about what the percentage form of this range is. Go ahead, take a moment. Okay, have your answer? Perfect. All right, so what we're going to do is proof this first and foremost. So let's just copy range number 22. And real quick, before we plug it in here, I want to show you kind of what I would do here. So I would say this looks pretty darn close to that 20% range. Now, yes, this one has ace-deuce suited and ace-6 suited and doesn't include ace-10 offsuit and queen-jack offsuit, so that's probably a few points less than 20%. And of course, we have to get rid of the kings plus and the ace-king and the ace-queen suited, and that's pretty close to that 2.5% range, right, of that queens plus ace king. So I'm just going to say it's probably about 18% of hands minus 2.5, so that gets us to what, 15.5? And let's see how close we are. So we'll paste this in, and not too bad. I was a little bit off. It looked like probably closer to 17% of hands to begin with, minus 2.5. But either way, that gets us in the ballpark, and 14 and 15 are close enough. So this is the way that we can start equating the range itself, what it looks like visually, the actual range strand, and the percentage form of that. Again, we could go a step further and look at combos as well, and we see right here this is 190 combos in this range, but ultimately this gives us a great starting point. And you may be wondering, like, why the heck does range 22 not have kings plus in it, or ace king? Well, this might be a range of hands that someone might call a preflop raise with, right? Maybe they 3-bet kings plus ace king and ace queen suited, and maybe these are the hands that they flat with, and then they fold the other stuff, they 3-bet this stuff, and they're good to go. So this is, you have to have a little bit of nuance in the way that you build this, and understanding, is someone going to take an aggressive action with some hands and a passive action with others, and especially when they're facing a bet or a raise, that's definitely something to consider. But this gets you started. Again, if you take those 5 ranges, you memorize them and their percentage forms, it's going to help you a tremendous amount. You can make some quick estimations, get pretty darn close, and that's going to help you a tremendous amount, not just in your preflop line creation, but also the way that you hand read postflop. Now, I won't lie to you, this is a bit technical, and it definitely takes some practice to start building this kind of intuition, but it's the basis of making better decisions both before and after the flop. Being able to say, I think this player is making this play X% of the time from this position, and then knowing what and what doesn't go into an X% range is incredibly powerful for 3-betting, for floating, and much more. My preflop and math workbook has many more examples just like the ones we did today to help you build your technical skill set through simple reps, and many more exercises throughout the workbook will help you pair an understanding of ranges with concepts like auto profit, aggression, and EV. A few pages per day will make your off-table time way more efficient, and your on-table time more effective. And at the end of the day, what more can you really ask for? Just visit splitsuit.com/preflop to grab your copy and start seeing poker at a technical level. Again, that's splitsuit.com/preflop to learn more and and grab your copy of either the digital book or the paperback via Amazon. So hopefully this gives you a better working understanding of what ranges in poker are, how the various forms of a specific range actually go hand in hand, and hopefully these reps and the things to memorize will help you a tremendous amount in making better estimates at the table and also improving those off table with some very simple drills and exercises. As always, if you have any comments or questions, please don't hesitate to let me know. And of course, if you wouldn't mind liking and subscribing, I would massively appreciate that as well. If you need anything, don't hesitate to let me know. Otherwise, as always, good luck out there and happy grinding.